Hello, welcome to my consumerism project. So to start off, you may be wondering, what is consumerism? Consumerism is the economic theory that the interest of consumers should be the most important factor to a business transaction. It is the consumption of goods and services in large quantities. These ideas flourish with holidays around gift giving and promoted through days such as Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Advertisements have a direct correlation to consumerism as well. A type of consumerism is hyperconsumption, which is the consumption of non-necessities with the pressure and influence to purchase by a modern and capitalist society. The products being consumed determine one's identity, hierarchical position, or societal status. The growing demand leads to a lack of natural resources, pollution, and destroys our natural world. This leads to conspicuous consumption, which is purchasing goods and services for the purpose of displaying your own wealth, showing your social status, rather than purchasing for the need or the enjoyment of the goods and services themselves. There's a theory called the consumer culture theory, made by social scientist Arthur Berger, Aaron Wildavsky, and Mary Douglas, who created the CCT, which is the consumer consumption theory. It tries to understand consumerism from a cultural point of view. They summed up that there are 4 types of consumer cultures. There's the hierarchical/elitist, individualist, egalitarian, and fatalist, and each have their own different versions of consumerism. Some negative effects of consumerism are the depletion of natural resources. Currently, we are overusing by 70%. The pollution, debt, mass debt around for everybody, and hoarding, which leads to self-esteem and depression, as well as addiction issues. An issue with debt, a good thing with debt to go and talk about is the Moonlight Clan. So you're probably wondering what the Moonlight Clan is. Well, the Moonlight Clan is a group of young people in China who choose to spend all their disposable income before their next paycheck, 40% leaving them with no money at the end of the month. Currently, 47% of Canadians live paycheck to paycheck, while 55 to 63% of Americans are as well. So growing families are increasingly unable to save, and that is causing lots of issues for the future generations and being able to afford certain things while also spending most of their disposable income on random stuff they don't need for the purpose of serving the hierarchy, and feeling as though they need to represent themselves on a society standpoint by over-consuming things they don't need. That's the issue with consumerism. While it's hurting self-esteem and making you feel like you need to buy things to be happy, you need to buy things to have a position in the world, in your society, it is also destroying the nature. It's destroying the environment with lots of pollution, which leads to global warming, climate change, loss of habitats for animals, and people trying to mine up the earth from all its resources. So a lot of resources are lacking right now, and a lot of things are changing in the world because humans are taking up a lot of natural resources, and eventually it'll be with none left because of all the overproduction of goods and a lot of overconsumption. It's just having lots of negative effects on the world. Now, here are some statistics of those things. As I was mentioning before, statistics by the worldcounts.com states we are currently overusing Earth's natural resources with more than 70%. Worldwide, 88 trillion worth of goods and services is produced a year. That is equivalent to 2.8 million every second. If everyone on Earth lived like the average American, we would need 5.2 planets to support us. If the impact is over one planet, we are borrowing nature from future generations, therefore impacting the lives of all the other people to come after us. According to a study by the World Wildlife Fund, More than a third of Earth's natural resources have been destroyed by humans in just 30 years. Global footprint measures human demands on nature. Just to show the big effects that are happening to the natural resources every year, the data was collected in 2017. There are 22.5 billion tons of biomass, 15 billion tons of fossil fuels, 9.1 billion tons of metal ore, and 41.7 billion tons of non-metallic minerals being used. By 2050, it is predicted that we will use twice as much. The world's oceans will also be emptied of seafood if we keep going the way we're going today. The world's rainforest will be gone in less than 100 years if deforestation keeps happening the way it is for our products needed. And the global temperature is also constantly increasing. A perfect example of overconsumption and consumerism and hyperconsumption is fast fashion. Earth.org defines this as cheaply produced and priced garments that copy the latest catwalk styles and get pumped quickly through stores in order to maximize on current trends. According to the UN Environment Program, the industry is the second biggest consumer of water and is responsible for about 10% of global carbon emissions, more than all the international flights and maritime shipping combined. The biggest players in fast fashion worldwide are Zara, Uniqlo, Forever 21, H&M, and growing is Shein and Temu. 85% of all textiles go to dumps each year. Even washing clothes release 500,000 tons of microfibers into the ocean each year, which is the equivalent of 50 billion plastic bottles. According to the nonprofit Remake, 80% of apparel is made by young women between the ages of 18 and 24. The issues with consumerism is not just naturally and does not just affect our environment, but as well as our social issues. 2018 U.S. Department of Labor report found evidence of forced child labor in the fashion industry in Argentina, Bangladesh, Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, Turkey, Vietnam, and more. Along with mental health effects that come with consumerism and fast fashion, child labor and slavery is also a major issue and factor to consider. It is important to do research on where you're buying from and the companies you are supporting. Another way to reduce consumption of fast fashion is by buying secondhand or renting clothes. Patsy Perry, the senior lecturer in fashion marketing at the University of Manchester, says less is always more. You may be feeling like this may be hopeless, we always see lots of issues in the media, we always see constant issues in classrooms, on the news, in just from your friends, your parents, your teachers, adults around, children even, come up with all of these issues, and there's so many that we need to think, so many things that need to be fixed in the world. You may be thinking, this is hopeless, but it's not. Mark Dockendorf said, May 11th, 2023, by becoming more aware of our own desires and values, by making intentional choices about what we consume and how we live, we can start to break free from the grip of consumerism and cultivate a more fulfilling and sustainable way of life. To sum it up, a way to overcome is to become more intentional and aware of things that you are buying and spending.